Hello everyone, and a sincere thank you to everyone at Nedbank for joining us today. My name is Hugo Ribatika, and I'll be your host for what I believe is one of the most critical conversations of our time, when childhood meets the smartphone. Now, if you're a parent, an aunt, an uncle, or simply someone who cares about the children in our community, you've likely felt it, that underlying unease. The silent question of, are we getting this right? Now, as we hand our kids a piece of technology more powerful than any that has ever existed. Today, we're here to turn that unease into understanding and that understanding into action. We're going to frame our conversation around three clear ideas: the problem, the impact, and the solution. But before we dive in, it is my privilege to introduce the incredible panel of experts joining me today who are on the front lines of this issue. Now, we are Smartphone-Free Childhood Movement South Africa, and absolutely delighted to be here. So first up, we have Kate Farina, our head of strategy, a former attorney and a mum on a mission. Kate founded an organization to give parents practical tools to navigate the digital world. She'll be breaking down the hard facts and stats that show us the scale of the problem. Kate, good morning.
Good morning.
Next, Lerato and Claire, our head of advocacy, also an attorney. Lerato specializes in cyber law and is passionate about protecting children online. She'll guide us through the real-world legal consequences and cases that illustrate the impact. Lerato, good to have you here.
Good morning, Hugo. Thank you, family.
And finally, by no means least, Claire Thompson, our head of marketing and operations. As a trauma counselor and a mother of two teens, Claire brings a vital perspective on the psychological effects on our children's mental health and development, which is a core part of understanding the impact. Claire, great to have you.
Thank you very much.
Now, together we represent a smartphone-free childhood South Africa, and we're here not to spread fear, but to spark a movement of hope and practical change. So, to set the stage, I'd like you to watch a short video that powerfully captures why we're all here today.
Hey kiddo, it's about time for bed, okay?
Okay.
Well, remember, there's a box in the corner over there with all the pornographic material that's ever been made in the world, even the really weird stuff that could scar you for life. I'm trusting you not to look in there, okay?
Okay.
Feelings are for losers.
Oh, and this guy's gonna be in your corner all night, just randomly spewing out hateful things. Just ignore him, okay? While I'm thinking of it, there's an order form on your desk where you can purchase illegal drugs. The mean girls from your school are gonna be standing there talking about you all night. And this Russian hacker's gonna keep asking for your password.
I'm not a hacker. Amazon customer service.
Just needs you to ignore him, okay? Love you, buddy.
We ask too much of our kids when we give them a smartphone. Let's change the norm. Together.
Maybe we go around the room and share social security numbers.
Join the movement at smartphonefreechildhoodus.com.
Yeah. I'll get it anyway.
Puts everything into perspective. Now, that is the heart of it, isn't it? This isn't about taking away technology, but about protecting childhood. Why am I involved? Well, a couple of months ago, I met these amazing ladies on my show on Newzroom Africa. And following that conversation, I felt challenged, as probably any other dad out there, to say, if I'm creating a smartphone-free environment for my two kids, how am I filling up that time? Because when you take away the gadgets, all the smartphones, there's almost an obligation to fill up their time. And it potentially questions me as a father, as any other parent or guardian, to say, how do you fill up that time? Big question that we hope to answer during the course of this morning. Well, Kate, let's make this real for everyone. Please take us through the numbers and show us exactly what we have to deal with.
Thanks, Hugo. And I mean, don't you just love that video? That was our counterparts in Smartphone Free Childhood US that have just come out with that. And I mean, we would love to make our own South African version. We're having some chats about that. But yeah, we've been seeing this for a number of years now. I've been involved in the research here in South Africa. So what we've been seeing with what our South African children have been telling us, grade 4 to grade 11, is pretty horrifying stats. And really what it's showing us is that younger and younger access to smartphones and tablets, because of course, you know, an iPad is just a large phone, is creating a portal to worlds that parents cannot follow. We don't have the ability to see and to know where our children are going. Social media access ever younger. which is a concern. Of course, what a lot of parents don't know is that the social media apps are self-regulated. So they get away with putting 13 as the age on the App Store because it's to get around US data privacy laws. It's got absolutely nothing to do whether Snapchat, TikTok, or Instagram is appropriate for 13-year-olds. So we've got this big gap where...
So maybe a question there.
Yeah.
Okay, if it says it's okay for 13-year-olds, right? Just based on the law of averages, right? How far off are we from the reality of it? Is it another 2 or 3 years? I mean, how they buck in the system?
So really, there's no age verification. Of course, the App Store hosts millions, literally, of apps and games. They are not regulating the content that's been put on those app stores, and the developers themselves are not doing proper age-appropriate regulation. So that is one of the problems, is that our kids can literally access anything online by either ticking that they are the right age or just putting in a dodgy birth date. I think one of the other problems is that we have this idea that children can manage themselves, that they're better at tech than we are. I mean, this is, I think, common amongst parents, and allowing them to have them in their rooms at night. So what our statistics are showing is that a large proportion have their phones at night or their tablets in their rooms with no parental filters or controls. And they all tell us that it's late at night where all the bad stuff is happening, where the cyberbullying, the contact from strangers, the pornography surfing, and why. We've got this perfect storm of tired brains making bad choices. So this is what we've been seeing in South Africa. This is our data is now going back to 21-22. What we had at the beginning of last year was suddenly this wonderful tipping point starting to happen. So Dr. Jonathan Haidt, a social psychologist out of Harvard, released the work that his team have been busy with, and they have been looking at what's been happening for the last 15 years, which is since the iPhone was essentially released. And he said, we have been making two big but well-intentioned mistakes because we didn't know better as parents. We've been overprotecting our children in the real world, and we've been underprotecting them online because we didn't know what we didn't know. And his research that he's put together, and he's produced it so well, and if you haven't read the book, it's a good read. It was on the top best-selling list the whole of last year. It's The Anxious Generation: How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness. And what he's saying is that what we've seen in the last 15 years is this grand slide when our teens are getting, when our kids are getting into teens and they've had unfiltered access to the online world, and particularly to social media apps. We're seeing an increase in anxiety, depression, addiction, self-harm, and even suicide. And at the same time, we are seeing a decrease in academics and the amount of sleep, because, of course, if your child has got its phone in its room at night and it's on highly addictive apps that are pulling them in, like social media, the first thing to be sacrificed is sleep. So we've got a sleep-deprived generation of teens. Family time is going down because not just our kids that are on the phones, it's all of us guys, right? We are also all on our phones, whether it is for work or play. Friends time.
It's also like smartphones are quasi-parents, right? Because if we're not spending time with our kids, if we're not available to our kids, then hey, get a smartphone or get a tablet.
Well, a quiet child is a convenient child, right? So if your child is being kept busy. And of course, their interpersonal, their friends' time is decreasing, their exercise. I mean, we were chatting just now about all those other impacts on their eyes, on their posture, a lot of impacts that we're seeing. And funny enough, not funny enough, because our brains are very differently wired, but what we're seeing with our girls, they are presenting higher rates, and this is what Claire's going to chat about a little bit more, but higher rates of anxiety, depression, and self-harm. So Instagram being a perfect platform for them, because we are social animals, us girls, we are self-comparative, and so that is the perfect platform that drives that. Our boys are showing high levels of addiction to online pornography, gaming, and by the way, the latest one that is a real problem amongst our South African teens is gambling addictions. And they are more likely to commit suicide.
When you talk about gambling addiction, right? I have to mention this. did a few conversations a few weeks ago, and the amount of money being spent on gambling is in the trillions of rand, and that's just absolutely crazy.
And it's all going offshore. It's going to the US and to Pakistan. I know, and we've got gambling supporting all of our sports. Anyway, a different topic for another day. Yeah. But gambling is and just all those parents out there, honestly, it's really, really big. You know, even watching gambling influencers who are taking money to place bets. What was the problem about? Well, as Jonathan points out, really, that we had no idea what we were doing. None of us wanted our children to be isolated and alone. And so we gave in too early to smartphones, iPads, and social media. And we were not, although we were picking up the problems, we were not forcing our children to shut down their social media accounts. And the latest research has just come out this year, which is even a bigger data set, has again, and it's a combination, a collaboration between Global Mind Project and Sapiens Lab, is showing very conclusively that if you give your child a smartphone before the age of 13, it is very conclusively associated with poorer mental health outcomes in young adults, particularly females, but doesn't exclude our teen boys. And this is real research. It is a real problem. We are being presented now, like we did when we all realized that smoking wasn't quite the fantastic Peter Stuyvesant lifestyle that it was being sold to us. We're being presented with the real data and the real research, and we've got an opportunity to do something about it.
So Claire, you're going to give us a talk in a minute about the implications of all of this, the impact. Sure. But before we do that, I'd like to go a few slides back, Kate, and look at the hashtags that we've got. So we've got a few hashtags that we'd like to call out to you that allow you to join in this conversation. And obviously, let's get it trending, because these issues are very, very important. So a few hashtags that you can plug into: hashtag change the norm, hashtag join the movement, hashtag together we are powerful, hashtag together we are stronger, hashtag SFCSA, and hashtag smartphone free childhood SA. Claire, take it away.
Thank you. So yes, so to summarize what we've shared so much, because we're talking about the impact now that early smartphone and unfiltered internet exposure has had on children. And ultimately, we need to look at how the addictions actually take place. So the basket of emotional concerns that we shared, the depression, the anxiety, the isolation, we understand that. But we really need to dig a little bit deeper and ask ourselves, how does that actually cement and take root? What actually happens in these children's brains? So I would like to explain it like this. So as the psychological development proceeds for a young boy or a young girl, we look at self-confidence specifically. So for girls, they peak a little bit earlier than boys, around about 10 and 11, and then it sort of crashes a little bit as the brain switches from understanding who am I to where do I belong. So that's the shift that happens in girls. And for boys, it's a little bit later, but their shift is more along the lines of where am I winning. So we have a situation where girls will now move into wanting to belong, so focus on their appearance and their social comparisons. And for boys, they want that feedback that I'm winning, that I'm performing, that I have a skill, that I'm really, really good at something. So when we now look at the actual brain structure, we have something called the prefrontal cortex, which is very underdeveloped in children. And in fact, it's really important to understand this. It takes until about 25 years of age for it to be fully developed. So the prefrontal cortex, so that you understand it, is like the CEO of the brain. It's the one that is logic. It makes has emotional regulation. It makes you think about long-term consequences, which these are not really characteristics that we would ever describe of teenagers, especially as a mum of two teenagers specifically. I can tell you that it's quite likely the opposite, which is very normal. And this is basically the reward seeking. So these kids are on the next level of reward seeking. They want the fun, they want the excitement, it's emotional before logic. So in essence, how this impacts, because we're talking about that and it's important to understand, is that we are giving children a device that is built to be highly addictive. It's ultimately designed by world leaders on something called attention profiteering. And we are expecting them to make adult decisions or logical decisions or rational decisions when they are physiologically not able to, because they are still developing that part of their brain.
You know, Claire, when we started, we talked about how we are giving our children the most powerful devices they've ever had to deal with. You know, I mean, it's almost like giving somebody a supercar and not allowing them the necessary training, right? To drive that supercar.
Right.
I mean, the consequences could be fatal.
Literally. And think now, even as an adult, your brain is fully developed. The last time your phone was stolen or you lost it for a day, how lost you felt. And so now imagine a child who is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and carry on counting, and saying to them exactly like that video showed, please don't look at the porn. Please make sure that you know that bedtime is 9 o'clock and I need you to go down. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's so unfair. Of course.
Discussion we had just now, because exactly what you said about attention profiteering is the algorithms that are driving all these apps, particularly social media apps, is designed and built on persuasive technology, which is the foundation of the gambling industry. So one more refresh, one more pull, going to get another dopamine hit. So exactly, you know, something we can hardly with our, I'm just over 25, as you know.
Yeah.
My brain's just a little bit, but hell, we can hardly manage it. So yeah, Claire's exactly right. Our teens can't, our young children cannot.
And to develop that even further, Kate, think about what addiction is. So I explained to you that young girls are looking for that sense of belonging and they're comparing themselves. So what are they getting addicted to? They're getting addicted to the likes, to that feedback. That's why they can't sleep at night, because they worry that their photo that they posted is getting unliked or not. Do you understand? They get worried about what they're missing, FOMO, in the middle of the night. And for boys, I think the gaming and the porn is so interesting, because if they do not have a skill or a real life aspect that they feel mastered at, what is the quick solution? It's gaming, because there's levels and it's fast feedback and it's something that they can perform at. And so they are getting that feedback that I am good enough, and that's what they're seeking. So if we do not have that real life, which is really important that we discuss that, children, including adolescents, need time in life to climb trees and to play in mud and to have fights and to figure it out and be bored and be creative, because those are the parts of the brain that need to be developed. And if I can just round off with regards to the mental health, because there's so much impact that's actually happening, guys. The impact on the family is, we shared that even as adults we have our own devices, but linked to that as well is, as we get tired and busy, the phone starts competing with the parent role. When we were younger, our parents were the source of information. If you needed to know how something worked, you went to your parents. But now the phone is competing. The phone is always available. The phone is fun, and the phone is giving instant rewards. So the child is shifting their locus away from the parent being the primary towards the phone. And I haven't even really gone deep into the school and academic, because think about this logically now. As we are giving these children access to this short form content, this dopamine hits, these gaming, and their brains are being rewired. They go into the school environment and their brain structure is not able to adjust now to what school needs. Because think about what school is: sitting for long periods, high levels of concentration, deep processing, deep constructing of critical thoughts. These parts of the brain, as we shared, are not yet developed, but need to be, right? So one expert we discussed when we had a meeting showed it really interestingly, in the sense that when you read, you learn in a Z pattern, from left to right, next line. But now they are starting to discover an F pattern in the brain. This is scroll up, read one line, scroll up, read one line. So they are learning even online, right? And then they go into exams, and we expect them to translate that information into a Z pattern. So there's a great rewiring of physically of how this brain is being developed.
So here's a question. We've got teens and kids that are addicted. to these gadgets. We've also got parents who are addicted to these gadgets, right? So how does the addicted parent, right, teach his addicted kid to let go of these smartphones? Because if all I'm doing all day long, I mean, if I'm sitting in the living room with my kids, right, and I'm on my phone, how do I say, sweetheart, put your phone away, okay, or take it away completely?
Actually, so it's really twofold, Hugo. The best thing that at smartphone-free childhood is that we say let children be children for as long as possible. A great way to put it is something that Nate Webb said. He's a school counselor from America, and he actually said, when do you give your child a smartphone? Basically, when you're ready for their childhood to be over. And as a parent, the decision to give your child a smartphone needs to be really well thought out, because are you ready to put in the time with regards to the parental controls? Have you got your tech boundary agreements in place? Hey, Kate, this is your area of expertise.
And are you prepared to be the role model, which I think is what
the role
Hugo's
model,
saying.
exactly.
So am I prepared to spend big chunks of time off my devices and be spending them with my children, or directing them to go and scratch that boredom itch in offline ways?
Yes.
Because that also takes an effort.
And if they are going to see something traumatic, because think about it, what we are seeing, I'm not going to list it, but you know, from porn to sex to trauma to killing to, you name it, animal abuse. Once they've seen something that has really upset them, are you now ready to be emotionally available to unpack that, to develop that, so that it doesn't turn into long-term PTSD eventually? So it's a huge decision, this. But yes, ultimately, we just need to rethink what we are actually doing in the technological age. We need to decide, where is the balance? Where is the mindful implementation of tech? How are we using it to our benefit? And if you are noticing any signs of addictions in yourself or your children, if it's severe, you need to seek medical attention. If it's something that you can handle, consider something that SFC is looking into to launch, which is the reconnection month, where you join us and we assist you with ideas and tips that you can do as a family, because we've got a lot of resources that we can share with families that want to rewind a little bit, go back, dial back.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is, towards the end of the conversation, we're going to take in a lot of questions. I'm assuming there are going to be many questions that the various Nedbank staff are going to ask, and amongst those is, how do you know you're addicted, right? I think is a big part of it. So we've talked about the implications that it has on the kids, on the family, but Lerato, there are also legal implications to all of this.
Absolutely, there are legal consequences, and unfortunately, our children don't know what they're doing online, and they don't know that some of them have legal capacity. So children under the age of 10 have no capacity to act, and they cannot be prosecuted or sued. But children between the ages of 10 and 13, they also are presumed not to have capacity unless they can prove beyond reasonable doubt in criminal proceedings whether they can actually differentiate between what's right and what's wrong. And then kids that are age 14 to 18 have full criminal capacity to act, which means that they can be sued, they can be arrested, and they can go through the law in terms of the Child Justice Act, which is a little bit different from the Criminal Procedure Act, but they still sort of have to be held accountable for their actions. And then obviously when we speak about legal capacity, then we have to consider some of the content that is considered illegal in terms of South African law. And that, involves coerced child sexual abuse material. So these are pictures, naked pictures of children that are circulating the internet. There's a huge demand for them, and we're seeing quite a lot of child exploitation cases of these, child sexual abuse material. I'll call it CSAM for short. In South Africa, it's referred to as child pornography, but we know that children cannot consent to pornography. So there is a call for that to be amended in terms of our criminal, the Sexual Offences Act.
And legally, when does a child stop being a child?
A child stops being a child when they turn 18. So once they're 18, you're not considered a child. So then there's also online sexual grooming, and this we're seeing a lot, especially in gaming platforms, social media platforms, where you get these predators who actually sexually groom children and desensitize them by either sending them, pornography or, showing them their own private parts. And then we're seeing that quite a bit, especially in gaming as well as social media, through DMs. WhatsApp as well has been quite a huge one, where children sometimes are the ones who self-generate this child sexual abuse material. Then we move on to other things like hate speech, acts of hate crime based on prohibited grounds. There's also inciting violence against a person or a group of persons, also based on prohibited grounds. Threats to incite or cause damage to somebody's property. There's also bullying, which we've been seeing quite a bit. And bullying in this day and age, unfortunately, it's one of the forms of cyberbullying called happy slapping, where what happens is that there's a bullying incident and then there's somebody who has a camera who basically has to take footage of it. And that's why we've been seeing such a surge of it. Before that, there was a TikTok challenge called Latweezy. Latweezy was when kids were storming the malls, and then there'd be a big fight that is sort of orchestrated between the kids from different high schools, and they would be fighting each other. So yes, and posting it online because it's something, and they would dress in black, and it was a whole thing. So what we're seeing now, even in the news with kids bullying each other and that circulating online, is something that is also seen. So some of those kids end up being charged either with assault, damage to malicious damage to property. Some of them actually even get charged for bullying or even cyberbullying. Then obviously we have nudes, and nudes we use for people that are older than 18. Yeah. Once you're older than 18, you take a nude, but as soon as it's a child, it's no longer nude, it's child sexual abuse material, and it can be prosecuted in South Africa. So if you have it on your phone, for example, if you take a picture, you're creating child pornography. Once you have it on your phone, it's possession. Once you send it to a friend or you send it to a WhatsApp group, it's distribution. And those are 3 acts. And in terms of South African law, each picture is a separate charge. So that's why you'll get people who are charged with like 720 counts of child sexual abuse material, and that's because it's how much they have on their phones, or what they've distributed, or what's been found in the computers and so on.
So then teens actually being prosecuted at the moment.
Absolutely.
For exchanging, well, can't call them nudes. What are we going to?
Child sexual abuse material. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Child porn.
We've got prosecutions.
Because, absolutely.
And we know that teen boys love to trade. They like to solicit, and then they trade the images.
Which is why the legal capacity is so important to consider, because if your child is 14, 15, they can also, because it can be considered also coerced, because you do get, in schools, I do get, girls, and I get called in each time there's some incidents, and sometimes it is that kids sharing nudes amongst each other, and they don't realize that it's illegal. And then also, AI-generated CSAM, which is now the deepfakes, where kids can now, put a picture that they found on social media and basically put it on an AI-generated model and say, undress this person, and basically with the use of AI, that sort of disfigures the person, and that's called AI-generated CSAM.
And you know what's absolutely crazy is that it's the kids that know how to work this tech a lot more than we do, right? And I know we're going to come to solutions, ladies, to all these challenges, but it's almost a massive challenge where the problem that you have to solve is bigger than you are, because a lot of them are smarter than us, as far as these gadgets are concerned, right? So I think that's why we're here, because it's about offering help, raising our hands and saying, you know what, I'm struggling, I can't do this, these are challenges. What is it that I actually need to do?
Absolutely. And linked to AI scams, obviously, is also non-consensual sexual images, what we call revenge pornography. So in instances where we've seen in high school where, kids are dating and then they're sharing nudes to each other and say, oh, please don't send it to anyone else. And then once we broke up, once people break up, then people start posting that sort of content. And I think I'll also just move on then to chain of publication. So chain of publication then exists where if some content, illegal content, has been posted online, unfortunately, if you like it, if you retweet it, if you repost it, if you comment on it, you become sort of part of the chain of publication, which means that you can also be held legally liable for that content. And it's something that a lot of people are very oblivious of, because they're saying that, oh, well, I didn't post it, I amplified it. But by amplifying it, you can also become part of that chain of publication. And there's instances where sometimes, the person maybe that have posted it, it's not really an actual person, it's a bot. And now we're after the real person who's amplified it. Then we go after you, and you can be held legally liable. And we've seen cases in South Africa which have actually proven this to be true. WhatsApp groups are a huge, huge issue. WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups,
yeah, big groups.
For older generation.
What's that? What's that?
A huge problem. So I always advise children and even adults that always remove yourself. So if you're in a WhatsApp group and you're seeing that it's going, illegal, remove yourself from the group. Tell the group, listen, guys, this is not okay. We need to delete this group, or we can't be saying this. So that's quite important. And then when we get into deep fakes, we did briefly just speak about deep fakes, but I think it's important to highlight an important case in South Africa. And this was even before there was AI intelligence, but kids even back in the day were smart. So this case is from 2011, and it's LaRue versus Day. And what happened was there were two teenagers, school children, who went to the school. One was 15 and a half, one was 17. And what they did was that they actually took images of naked people in a very sexually suggestive pose, in a compromising position. And what they did was that they actually put it in, they digitally manipulated the picture to actually depict the deputy principal and the principal in this suggestive, sexually explicit picture. And they circulated it around the school. Now, the principal were like, obviously, this is an infringement to my privacy, infringement to my dignity, and they actually sued for defamation. They sued for defamation, and they actually succeeded. They were awarded about 45,000 rand. 25,000 rand was for the infringement of the dignity. 20,000 rand was for the infringement of for criminal injuria reputation. So in that instance, obviously, kids don't have the financial means, which means the parents now have to cough up this 45,000 rand, and that is the reality of what's happening in the schools that we see. I'm dealing with a lot of cases, where sometimes kids are participating in things that are considered illegal. There was one instance, for example, where kids were actually, saying. They were forcing other children basically to sing this song called Niggas in Paris. And they were forcing them to actually sing it, and then they recorded it. Now, obviously, the people who were in the video were white, and it seemed like it is a racist sort of portrayal. And those are some of the cases that we deal with. We have children who are stalking their teachers and messaging their husbands. So there's a lot of those things that we're seeing in schools. But I think just to end off, especially on a deepfake note, I would like to show a video which actually shows us, the impact and the implications of oversharing on social media, being oblivious of what sort of information we're posting and what it can actually lead to, especially in the future where we're seeing AI trends of a lot of AI that we're still going to see, which remains unregulated. And hopefully it's something that can be regulated in the future to prevent some of the things that you're going to see in the video. I won't say enjoy.
Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. It's me, Ella. Well, a digital version of me. Just a bit older. Amazing what technology can do these days, isn't it? All you need are a couple of pictures, like the ones you share on social media, where they can be taken and used by everybody. I know for you these pictures are just memories, but for others, they are data. And for me, maybe the beginning of a horrible future. A future where my identity can be stolen, just like that. Where I can go to prison for things that I would never do. Imagine my credit score being destroyed, Dad. Or my voice copied to scam you, Mom. Mom, I'm in trouble. I need you to send me money, please. I don't want to become a meme, humiliated by everyone at school.
Kill yourself, you fucking loser.
And I certainly don't want this. What you share online is like a digital footprint that will follow me around for the rest of my life. I'm telling you this because I know you love me and would never do anything to harm me. So please, Mom, please, Dad, protect my virtual privacy.
Yeah. Mind-blowing.
Yeah.
That is the impact of what AI can do and what data can do. The more we share on social media and tech platforms, the more privacy we lose, and it leads to cybersecurity issues, privacy issues, and in some instances, legal issues. So, yeah.
Let's get hopeful.
Yeah, so
Let's do some hope.
I need to pick me up. I think we all do. It's okay. It's pretty gloomy, certainly much of what we've shared, but all hope is not lost.
No, actually, it's a huge time of hope. So all of the parents out there who haven't had children yet or have got young kids, this is actually a fantastic time to be a parent. Notwithstanding what we've all shared. For those of us like myself and Claire who've got teens, and you've got a teen, Hugo, we've been having a rough ride. But this is a time actually of hope, because what I mentioned earlier about all this research coming to the fore and wonderful people who are speaking into the space about it are also proposing solutions. And I talked about Dr. Jonathan Haidt, and he's a social psychologist, so he's about practical solutions to community behavior. And so what he is proposing is really what the smartphone-free childhood movement globally is based on. Started in the UK at the beginning of last year, and we were one of the early chapters here in South Africa. And so what I would like to quickly do is let him speak to what he believes are some of the solutions that we need to think about pivoting in terms of our parenting, in terms of being more conscious, more mindful about the tech decisions we're making.
Why are we all doing it? Only because everyone else is. That's it. That's the reason. This stuff is not made for kids. This stuff is toxic for kids. Really, it should be, minors should not be on it. It should be 18. But there's a consensus building that while 18 might be best for mental health, 16 is a kind of a reasonable compromise. In the UK, they're exploring that. The Florida bill just did that. A number of states are doing that. In my book, I recommend 4 norms by which we can escape from this trap. The first is no smartphone before high school. Just use flip phones or phone watches. The second is no social media till 16. It might sound impossible, but because if your child is the only one, right? If you're the only one who doesn't have it, it's incredibly painful. But what if half the kids in your school didn't have it? Well, then it's not so bad. The third one is phone-free schools. We've just got to get them entirely out of the schools. There's no role for them. And then the fourth is far more independence, free play, and responsibility in the real world. If we're going to cut back on screen use a lot, especially in elementary and middle school, we have to give them what we took from them, which is play. which is each other. And so if we have to, now, it used to be you could just send the kids out, come home when the streetlights are on. I understand that's going to be harder today. We have to be more intentional. But if you can find ways to just help your kids hang out together with no screens, they're going to have a great time.
I can see all the teens in this room reacting to that. When you said phone-free schools, you should have seen her face like, are you kidding me? A phone-free school? But I agree that if everybody is doing it, it makes it really, really hard for your child not to be a part of it. So it has to be a community. Everybody has to decide as a community. And I think one of the reasons why people haven't decided, because people actually don't know how bad it is. So you are sounding the alarm, and you are sounding the alarm. And this generation really is the generation that we're experimenting with, and they're going to pay the price for it because people don't yet understand how bad it is and how damaging it's going to be to the future.
That's right. I would just say 4 years ago, I think that statement would be perfectly correct. And then we had COVID and everyone was confused. And now that COVID is receding, I'm finding actually most of us kind of knew this, like most of us felt like, wait, this is really wrong. Something is really wrong here.
So I think that gives you a very good idea about what this call is for these collective new norms. We're calling them new norms. And that we have to look at how we pivot as communities, as societies, its parents, its educators, and it's our regulators together towards creating a better childhood, a better approach towards childhood for our children that would be a good platform for them to be healthy, happy teenagers and obviously fully functional adults. So the Smartphone Free Childhood chapter in South Africa is positioned on these new norms, and really our purpose is to try and shift them for South Africa, to shift the thinking around these norms, around the acceptable use of smartphones, and that would include iPads, it would include obviously any device connected to the internet, but particularly social media in childhood. And so we very much support this call, this global call. This is supported by smartphone-free childhood movements throughout the whole world. And this is really what we are building a platform around and helping to connect parents, to encourage schools, to also obviously work with our regulators.
So watching that video, what's clear is we can't do it on our own. There's a strategy. Claire, it's called a parent pact, yes?
Parent pact,
yeah.
Correct. And so what's so amazing listening to all of this is, so how do we all get together? So we don't want our child, because the parent or caregiver is in a lose-lose situation. You don't want to give them a smartphone, so you give them a smartphone because you don't want them to be isolated, but the damage that's been done when they've been given a smartphone. So how do we do this? So we've provided the solution at SFC, which is the Parent Pact. So every primary school is listed on our website, and I have to put in a little disclaimer here that we are actually about to launch our brand new website and our new branding. So look forward to that as well. Keep refreshing the page over the next couple of days. So you go into the Parent Pact, you'll find your child's grade, school first, grade second, and then you enter your child's first name and the first initial of their surname. And you'll get an email, a monthly email, alerting you to other families that are also making the mindful choice to try to delay. And why do we want that? As we said, to recap, just to give your child the space and grace to be able to find themselves for a little bit longer before we start hitting them with the really big world issues. So the Parent Pact actually is quite a nice trick. So when your kid comes to you and says, I'm the only one without a smartphone, you'll actually have the facts now because you get the you get the monthly email. But it also allows you just to be able to connect with other families who have similar life goals as yourself, so that you can, yes, organize play dates, but you can also organize activities, and you can have braais and that safe space where you know that you are trying together as a community. You know that sentence, it takes a village to raise kids?
Yeah.
We've lost that. We've become these little nuclear pods, and we're all struggling for our own little space. But it actually, to change this norm, which is one of our hashtags, we have to start doing this together. And it's basically off the tipping point. We just need a certain percentage of people to say, not now, not forever.
25%, by the way.
25%. Thanks, Kate.
We start changing
not
the norm.
no forever, just not now.
Yeah.
Just take time. Get to know yourself. Find out who you are. Build your skills. then we can start to integrate it.
Okay, Claire, you're a trauma counselor, right?
Sure.
Now, I have no doubt in my mind that this is going to be traumatic for a lot of teenagers, right? For a lot of young kids. I mean, we see the tantrums when you pull a tablet or a pad from a 3-year-old or 4-year-old,
sure.
or the sort of attitude that we get from our kids when we limit. I mean, never mind taking away completely.
Sure.
Just very quickly, just walk us through what can parents expect in that regard, and how do you deal with it?
So if the child specifically has already had a long period of time where they've been exposed and they are, in inverted commas, either addicted clinically or addicted in the sense that their behavior patterns are cemented to this device, it will be a little bit painful. But so is everything. Have you tried cutting out sugar lately, or losing weight, or going to the gym, or saving? It's hard, but these are life skills. So what are we supposed to do as parents? Are we supposed to just give up because it's hard? No. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it together, and we're going to acknowledge the feelings, and we're going to put in plans, opportunities to reward ourselves and to set goals and to really be able to show a life skill of adapting to something. Just because something is maybe a little bit too much or gone wrong doesn't mean we give up and walk away and say, oh well. But I think it's really important also to hold the end goal in mind and to remember, think about the last time you did something you were really proud of, when you saved for that house or you ran that marathon and the hard work that went into it. Try to remember that sense of satisfaction that you received, and try to give your child the opportunities to find that sense of self. On Maslow's hierarchy, do you remember that triangle? There are 5 essential psychological needs. So self-esteem and self-actualization are actually on the top 2. And it's very, very important for our psychological well-being that we have that. So to be able to bring those life mastery skills in for your kid, maybe they want to learn how to cook. Find activities that make them feel good, that make them feel proud of themselves, and you'll find the transition.
And do them together.
You can't just take stuff away.
Yeah, no.
This is an opportunity to reconnect with our kids. We are also tired and busy, but food does need to be cooked, so might as well make it an opportunity for the kid to learn.
Fantastic. Now, there's a huge amount of advocacy, phone-free schools, that's going on.
Yes, so we've been speaking to a lot of regulators and some government departments to help us with this, and one of them is phone-free schools. So we actually have a phone-free register, and we're advocating for phone-free schools because we want to allow learners to focus on academics and develop socially without distractions. We want to reduce the bullying and other digital drama that comes to schools. We want to raise awareness about the impact of devices, social media and gaming, and also to improve their concentration and engagement levels. And we're also speaking to a lot of regulators about having social media age restrictions or restricting social media until children are at least 16 years of age. And, you know, while they go through the online curriculum on online safety and the digital literacy, by the time they're 16 years old, they will hopefully make better decisions. So we are calling on corporate, and we are calling on parents as well to support our movement, to support our advocacy efforts so that we make this a reality. We're seeing quite a lot of support from some of the regulators that we've reached out to, and we're hoping that it's going to become law in South Africa, following the path of Australia and other countries who have implemented this law of social media age restrictions.
Okay, before we take a look at the questions, we've had a whole bunch of questions that have come through. I'm very, very excited to walk us through those.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the big question that always comes from parents is EdTech is if I've delayed smartphones, now my school requires an iPad or a laptop in grade 3 or 4. And of course, this is a big part of what we're looking at as well, is how are we using technology to supplement and not replace education as mindfully and as intentionally as we can, particularly in primary school, and safeguarding around that, the duty of care that schools have. So we had a lovely webinar last month, and wonderfully attended. And by the way, anybody who would like to come to our webinar tomorrow night, we're talking to some heads that have gone phone free and giving us some of the experiences. But parents are asking, so what do I do? If I'm lucky enough to still be in the position where I can press pause and I can join a parent pact and, delay smartphones and delay social media, but what can I do to rewind? And that's the difficult part that many of us are situated in. And it's really about, at this moment in time, being more conscious about our own usage, about our children's usage. The amount of time they are spending online and on social media apps does matter. So there are, getting devices out of rooms at night, please. If that's the one thing anybody takes from our conversation today, is set up a central charging station somewhere. Yeah. Get those devices out of the rooms. We've got to be more conscious about what the real age ratings are, understanding that what's is put on the App Store is not the real age rating. And that there's 3 layers. It's very difficult. This burden, this unfair burden on parents. Know that once you're giving your child a device, it's a huge burden. There's 3 layers. It's Wi-Fi, it's the device settings, and then it's the apps and games. But do what you can. If you're going to let your child have Instagram, set up Instagram supervision. So you can set the amount of time that they're going to be spending. You can try and set as much as you can, the sensitivity controls. Set up family pairing. For TikTok, unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do with Snapchat, one of my very worst apps. But try and set up, co-collaborate with your teen. They have to understand what you're trying to do.
So who helps in the setup? Because for a lot of parents, they aren't sufficiently savvy to be able to do that. So if I wanted to set up these gadgets, right, where do I go? Who do I go to?
So it's not hard, but definitely you can check in with us. We will help. This is what we do. We've been testing it on our own children. We will give advice as much as we can.
Sure.
Parental controls are hard, though. And ultimately, we want to get to the stage where the responsibility is on big tech to keep our children safe on the platforms that they are developing and they are making a huge amount of profit on. But check in with your kids and check up on their devices. There ain't no privacy online. Those devices need to be picked up. You need to check them. You need to know what's going on.
Great. Well, ladies, we've got a whole lot of questions that we need to go through super quick.
Nice.
Big thank you to all of you that are watching and those incredible questions that you've sent through. I'm going to start off with this one, which I particularly like. It seems there is a desperate need for a balance in screen time. So can you provide 3 actionable daily routines parents can implement to help their children build healthier screen habits without sparking rebellion? World War III, we're all too familiar with that. P.S. We worry about the impact on digital addiction on our children, but we probably need to start with ourselves. I think that's something we talked about a little bit earlier.
Yeah. So I think really understanding and agreeing with the family where the no-go zones are for devices. And that's for all of us, Are you watching the news on the loo in the morning? It's mum, dad as well. Yeah. Are devices going to be allowed in bedrooms, in bathrooms, at the family table? And it goes also to the amount of time we're going to agree that we can spend on these different apps. Maybe it's looking at setting grayscale. Grayscale is a fantastic built-in setting on all of our phones, whether you've got an iPhone or an Android, that at a certain time, everything goes grey. It actually doesn't make anything very fun. But it's about being mindful and setting those boundaries and those habits for us, where, when, how, and how much and with who.
And just to also add, I think modeling good behavior. I think if your child is going to watch a whole series on Netflix from start to beginning, all 10 episodes, that's a bad behavior. That's a bad habit that they're going to sort of also take on. So having family nights where we watch a movie together, when it's over, it's done, we do other things. So modeling that behavior as well can be quite good in terms of ensuring that your child also sort of feeds into what you're also doing. Kids will always do what you do and not what you say.
Also trying to make it fun. Consider that the way your child is viewing it, if you just take something away, is they're going to have objection to that. But no child is ever going to turn down the opportunity to bond or to have that fun element with you. So if you turn this into a challenge, you know your kid's better. You've got to choose how it works for you, but you've got to get their buy-in. You've got to do it as a united front, something you're doing together, challenge of the week.
All right. Next question says, I really love this topic and I have 2 questions for the panel. If a child already has a cell phone, is it still possible for parents to introduce rules to protect them from its negative effects? And second is parental controls on phones can be time consuming, as I just said. How can parents manage this effectively when they have limited time?
Yeah,
I think having a cybersecurity contract kids don't have the right to a cell phone. It's a privilege. And it needs to have rules. You need to have rules in place. So having a cyber safety contract that will tell your child, this is the amount of time that you're going to spend on social media. You promise me that you're not going to go download sites that are not age appropriate. You give me permission to have parental control and to sort of be engaged. So for example, Kate made an example about Instagram parental controls. Also, if you're using Google Link, for example, which gives your child a permission to access certain apps before they download them. So having that contract in place, which will basically say what's allowed, what's not allowed. For example, the big one for me is we don't take naked pictures of ourselves. We don't talk to strangers as well. So those are certain things that you can sort of include in the contract. And if obviously there's a breach and people are not following the rules, then the smartphone is being taken away.
Claire, as a mom of a 15-year-old, is it too late to pull on the brakes? And how do you do so without her feeling like we don't trust her or are being over-controlling?
So I actually have personal experience with that because as I shared, and I humbly tell you, I am that parent that made that mistake. I didn't know what is known today. So I suffer the consequences of a child who is heavily embedded. And I'm working on it slowly. And part of what I'm doing with my 16 and almost 18-year-old is to start to bring them into the conversation, to explain to them that I have made a few mistakes. I'd like to have a few conversations about what I'm now learning, and I'm wondering if we could, if you could put on your big girl brain or your big boy brain, and if we could start to talk about how do you think we could do this together? Do you understand the damage? Do you agree with the damage? Here's some research. Look, with a teenage boy, these conversations are 10 minutes max, but I'm persistent. Because if he wants to grow up to be a man now, I need to also treat him with that respect. So, you know, I think girls are easier to talk to, but what I would say is just don't give up. Even my own 17-year-old, I never put these beautiful restrictions that we're talking about now with my child, and I'm going to tell every single parent that is in that same situation, they will not tell you about traumatic events at the time. They will tell you years later. And that is also just something we have to forgive ourselves. So don't give up because your child's 17 turning 18. I'm now starting to have these conversations with my kids to put these boundaries in place, these practices of protection in place.
Do we offer these talks at schools? Is the next question.
Absolutely. We offer these talks everywhere to any community that wants to have a chat. We've got a team of ambassadors who are available, that can do talks, and we just would love to get the message out about what the movement is about and have people join us.
Kate, it's a perfect time to talk about contacts. If anybody wants to reach us, wants to reach the ladies, wants to invite you to a school,
please. So the website, we're so excited to launch it. Our webinar is tomorrow night. We'd love everybody to come and join. We actually have specialists who have gone phone free, leaders, school leaders, coming to talk to us about what they've observed with the children and what they've learned. So you can find it on the website. Go /events if you would like to find the Parent Pact /pact. Alternatively, just email us and we'll assist you. It's info@sfc-sa.co.za. Please join our social media as well, because we really need to spread the word. We're growing a movement. We need everybody to share this with other families who are struggling. We also would love any support with regards to donations. We are a non-profit and we have our PBO, so we are able to assist if you need a tax benefit through it. And then lastly, we just wish everybody to start the conversation, because even these scary topics is important to open up the lines of communication about what is right, what needs to be done, and what needs to change.
Lerato, is there a platform where all the legal implications are listed, adults and minors action?
I don't know actually. I personally don't have. I don't think SFC does. But I think it's something that it's worth creating, where we can actually list all the legal implications with the relevant sections, as well as the sentencing or imprisonment if you have to get locked up.
Right, ladies, we're going to wrap up.
Okay.
Any closing remarks? anything that you didn't get a chance to say, anything that's come up that you feel, you know what, this is an absolutely massive nugget that I need to share?
I think I just love the conversation we were having just before this, is that if we are going to get our children off their screens, is what are they going to do? And that is all part of the normal teen brain growing up. That boredom itch is there for a reason, that they need to go and take risks and take thrills and spills, and those are very easily dealt with, those dopamine hits, by just reaching into their pocket and going on their phone, but they're not learning the life skills that they need to become fully functioning adults. So we as adults who are also very busy need to be thinking about that, channeling them into other things. Some of them we do together, others maybe we guide them and just set them off on a game, but we have to be thinking more mindfully about the amount of time our children are getting offline and being able to just be children.
I'd like to end off with a quote. A smartphone is more than a piece of technology. If wrongly used, it can be a weapon that puts your child's safety, their future, and their reputation at risk.
Okay. And I'd like to finish off to say that childhood is such a sacred time. And as children, we are often not really understanding how sensitive teenagers are. One of the experiences that I had when I was working on the suicide line was to listen to the children phoning in and feeling very depressed and wanting to end their life. And when they shared the actual aspect that they were upset about, I remember initially my reaction was, through my adult brain, that's really not that big an issue. But what you've got to understand, it was a big issue for that child. So if we know that they're sensitive, imagine now how they feel about this violent, awful content that they're experiencing repeatedly because they're scrolling. It's really important to remember that they only have so many years just to find out who they are, just to be kids, just to build those skills, to make mistakes. They're developing, they need their friendships, and to go through life and be like, my whole world is going to be online because I might make a joke, or somebody might fool me when I'm not watching, or I might make a fool of myself and the whole world will see that. I don't think that that's really fair. I think children need that space and we need to protect it for them.
Well, it's been incredible. We've gone through it. We've ticked the boxes, come up with the possible solutions. And a big part of what we encourage you to do is to go to our website, which is www.sfc-sa.co.za, and a number of things for you to do. One of the things that I'm encouraging everyone to do is to sign that parent pact, because then it says you're not alone. There are other parents that you can talk to and communicate with in order to do this. Ladies, it's been absolutely marvelous. Great chatting to you. Kate, thank you. Lerato, Claire, big thank you to Christine from the Be Cybersmart team for facilitating this for Nedbank. And a big thank you to Nedbank and to every single one of. And a big thank you to all the Nedbank staff who tuned in to enjoy the last hour or so with us. We certainly look forward to seeing you on various social media platforms and meeting you in person. I'm Hugo Ribatika. Until the next time, good morning.